Hello, everyone. Today, Carly and I are going to be discussing the DC Blackout event that happened this past summer. So we do want to start by discussing a little bit digital technology and disinformation, how the partnership comes together, and how they help breed disinformation through what we've called a lethal partnership of the democratization of information and echo chambering algorithms. So on one hand, you have the democratization of information, which essentially means that anybody today can have an opinion and spread their views with very little sort of checks on how they can do that. This is very new, and because of this, a lot of people with very uninformed and random opinions can, gain a lot of traction over the internet, and this is how we see a lot of these disinformation campaigns spawn in the first place. And the second thing that we sort of see that's a major contributor to disinformation are echo chambering algorithms, where people are essentially grouped into cohorts of like-minded individuals, whether that be for good or for bad, and their opinions sort of get rebounded until that becomes the truth, at least the internal truth within that group, and it's the truth that they all believe to be true. And so essentially you have a group of people that can say whatever they want with very little restriction and all think very similarly and could all be wrong together. And so you can see already how this very quickly breeds the type of disinformation that, is very present in today's site. So then moving on, we do want to discuss some of the tweets that we saw this summer, which led us to talk about this in the first place. And I do just want to bring to the attention all four of these tweets, all of which speak about, a blackout in DC with bombs and phones being jammed and the city on fire. But literally everything you see in all of these is completely fake. Even the pictures of DC that are on fire are from a TV show, if I'm not mistaken. And so, yeah, this gained a lot of traction over the summer. So we thought it was important to discuss how something like this could happen, why something like this could happen, and then what we could do to fix it in the future. So then we're now, Carly, to discuss the specifics of the event.
Yeah, thank you, Mateo. So, the DC Blackout Misinformation Campaign came after massive protests in DC following the murder of George Floyd. At these protests, Washington, D.C. police used tear gas, rubber bullets, and stun grenades on protesters. So, the goal of this disinformation campaign is unclear. A majority of social media users buying into the blackout believed that it was initiated to disrupt the protest or block DC citizens from using the internet and posting what was happening at these protests. But in reality, as Mateo said, none of this is true. So the DC blackout conspiracy theory and hashtag first emerged from an account with just 5 followers. Independent researchers believe hacking of accounts, bots, and trolls were involved in this event. The Poynter Institute also claims that it could not have been a lone wolf and that it must have been an orchestrated attack. So looking more deeply on the timeline, as you can see, at June 1st at 1 a.m., the first account sent the first tweet about the blackout. After this, 500,000 tweets from 35,000 unique accounts posted about the blackout in a matter of hours. At about 7 a.m., it was showing up in Twitter's list of trending topics, and DC citizens and other news outlets started tweeting, refuting these claims using hashtag DCSafe. From around 8 to 11 a.m., Twitter accounts started getting hacked, and Twitter was working to ban accounts spreading disinformation. By around noon, the majority of the accounts using the hashtag were genuine, authentic Twitter users. And from that point on, more news outlets and Washington officials were disproving the hoax. So around the later hours of the night on June 1st, the disinformation campaign was disproven, and it was now widely perceived as a hoax. So moving on to the impact, since it was a short-lived disinformation campaign around only 24 hours, there was no real impact on businesses or the economy. Its largest impacts were on furthering political polarization and further distrust in social media platforms. So I'm going to pass it off to Mateo now to talk more about recommendations to counter disinformation.
Right. Thanks, Carly. So now that we understand, why something like this could happen and the type of, impact that it can have and how quickly it can spread the timeline, we thought that it'd be sensible to sort of outline some recommendations as to how, we can solve this type of issue going forward. And we've put them into 3 groups, following reputable news, social media interventions, and then our last one, which is our personal favorite, digital hygiene. And to speak of reputable news and social media interventions, it's essentially very short solutions to what we consider to be a larger problem. And reputable news essentially just tune in to fair or even slightly biased but fair news sources that give a decent perspective of the world without fomenting this type of conspiracy theories. Social media interventions is also a great solution, essentially, much like we saw with the Twitter and the president over the summer. just having the platform itself rule out a lot of the blatantly false things that are being said is a great step in making sure that we can effectively communicate on the internet. We don't have to be surrounded by false claims all the time. But our personal favorite in digital hygiene essentially is that, much like we teach kids to sort of wash their hands today or to brush their teeth in the morning, we can teach kids in the future to understand that the internet is a place where a lot of false information gets spread, and to understand that they have to think very critically about the things that they read on the internet, to the point where information that you read on the internet can become as trustworthy as a scribble on a wall somewhere, right? And this type of long run sort of mentality shift is what we believe will be necessary to fix the tremendous spread of disinformation that we've seen over the last couple of years, and specifically this year with the election being held. But we are out of time, so with that, we would like to cut off and open up for any questions.